Welcome into the Week 7 WATD Fantasy Draft. We are officially in the final trimester of the regular season. It is hard to believe that we have come this far already, but we are thick into the heart of league schedule. We've got some familiar foes facing off against each other in the coming weeks. And this is where stars are truly born. This is where, everybody starts separating themselves and we start getting down towards the end. End of the regular season always comes at a good time, especially with this 9 week regular season. As far as us running out of fresh picks to make, there are still a bunch available, and we're excited to do so. Quinn Kelly, Johnny Rourke, Brendan Connolly. The WATD fantasy draft is getting underway in just a few moments here, and it's a week full of big matchups. We've got our South Shore game of the week coming up on Friday night down in Plymouth. Plymouth South taking on Hanover in a game that could go a long ways towards determining the Patriot League Fisher division. It's one of many important matchups on the weekend, coming off of what was one of the craziest weekends I can remember in Week 6. So it was a lot of high-scoring affairs. A few of our guys did very, very well from last week, and hoping to roll forward with that again this week. So as we continue our rotation through the order, Johnny will lead things off this week, picking first overall. Brendan will be second. I will be third, and we'll continue to wrap right around from there. So with that, let's delay no further. Johnny, you can head to the board. You are on with the first overall pick of the Week 7 WATD Fantasy Draft.
Yeah, week 7 is shocking, huh? This is really gotten away from us. Let me see here. I'm gonna go. I think I'm just gonna rip quarterback off the rip here. I'm gonna go Patrick Collins from Milton. They got a big one against Walpole this week. Just a pretty big matchup. I mean, Milton's looked good this year. Patrick obviously a big reason for that, but that's kind of a matchup that I've got my eyes on this week.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where he probably should have come off the board before this. Is it necessarily a perfect matchup? I think it's going to be a great matchup. And so hopefully that lends itself to a high scoring one. I think Milton had a great bounce back week against Wachusett coming off the Weymouth loss last week. I think that they're going to be motivated in a Super Bowl rematch with Walpole from a couple of years ago. So I like Patrick Collins to have a big game. I think they're going to throw it around the yard a little bit here, and I think that tough matchup or not, I think he's going to be able to get some points. All right, Brendan.
I think I'm going to go wide receiver here, and I'm going to look at a matchup between two teams in the Patriot League that I think are coming off a couple tough weeks in a row, but both are very explosive offensively. I'm going to go with North Quincy's, and I hope I'm not butchering the name here, John Ganako.
Naku. Naku.
Naku.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew I might mess that one up, but he's been in the stat sheets for a few weeks in a row. He's been one of their lead targets, and I feel like this is a game where both North Quincy and Pembroke are going to put up a lot of points trying to pick up a win and get back on track in that chase for the Patriot League hunt.
Yeah, this one feels to me like a game that could go very similarly to how Pembroke's meeting with Hanover goes. Kind of a high scoring shootout type of game. Two very capable offenses, both coming off of kind of frustrating performances. Pembroke certainly, I mean, to go from 40 points against Hanover and then get blanked the following week against Scituate, I think that they're going to be looking to get the scoring going early. And whether it's Pembroke scoring a bunch or North Quincy doing it right off the rip, I think both of these two teams are going to be playing right alongside each other, trying to get points on the board. So I think that's a worthy pick there, Brennan. I think North Quincy going to move it through the air this week. All right, that'll bring it to me, and I am going to get a wide receiver on the board first, and I'm gonna go with Caden Black out of Bridgewater Raynham. I think they've got a very favorable matchup this week against New Bedford. I think they take care of business in that one, no problem. I think that they're going to be looking to put up some points. I think that you start watching as you come down to the wire here, the power rankings a little bit more, and that margin of victory becomes a little bit more important. I don't think they have any problems getting to 14 points up on New Bedford, but I think in the process of doing so, they're going to throw the ball around a little bit. So I like Caden Black. All right, Johnny.
Hmm. Wow, just realized the guy I was going to take is off this week. That's brutal. That is that I was so proud of myself. He's not even technically on the list. Wow, that is just devastating. Um, okay, back to the drawing board. I am going to go. I'm going to go to that North Quincy matchup. Actually, who did Brendan take?
John Naku.
Okay. I'm gonna go Ronan Brown from North Quincy. Um, I just think in the one game that we've seen North Quincy play live, they weren't really able to sling the ball at all. But I do think in the Pembroke matchup, we've seen Pembroke play Hanover. Hanover a little bit higher caliber team opponent, but they were still able to throw the ball, right? So I think, or Hanover was against Pembroke. So I think North Quincy should have some ability to do that, and Ronan's going to be a key piece in that.
Yeah, I like Roden too. Two Raiders off the board in the first four picks, both at the wide receiver position. I think the boys are betting on a big passing game here, and why not? I think there's certainly no reason that it couldn't go that direction for North Quincy. I think they're certainly going to be looking to get that passing game going after being a little bit stifled against Pembroke last week. So yeah, I think you're both on the right trail with that. All right, Brendan, round two.
I'm going to go quarterback here, and I'm going to go to the Plymouth North Hingham matchup. I feel like Plymouth North's going to be chasing this one, so they're going to be throwing the ball, and that's why I'm going to go with Jake Tershionitz.
I love it. I had two guys on my list at quarterback this week, and he was one of the two, and I was kind of interested to see if you'd go for one of the two, and then I would have the decision taken from my hands, and that's exactly what happened. Um, I I think that Jake has had a great season so far, and I think you're right, Brendan. I mean, I think Hingham's Hingham is in an interesting spot now just because of what we saw this past weekend. I think week six will prove to be a cautionary tale for Hingham because Hingham's coming off of it was a hugely emotional win for them, beating Duxbury for the first time since 2007 on Saturday. Now you come in, you've seen what happened to Plymouth South coming off of their Situate win. You saw what happened to Weymouth coming off of their Milton win. Those two teams got beat by, I can't say as surely in the case of Plymouth South, I can say certainly in the case of Weymouth, got beat by a lesser opponent in week six. Didn't stay up after the emotional high of a win. So Hingham, I think, is going to come out and try their best to be sharp, get ahead early, play from in front. And I think you're right, Brennan. I think that's going to lead to Plymouth North trying to go through the air a lot, trying to get some points on the board, and hopefully moving the ball downfield with Jake Kirchinat. So I think that's a good pick.
And I think this is probably one of their more explosive teams offensively that we've seen in a while out of
Yeah,
Plymouth North, which is why I kind of like this pick.
he's got a great group of wide receivers that have had a lot of success this year. I think absolutely he's got some weapons. All right, that wheels it around to me, so I will then pin my quarterback pick. I am going to go to the running back room, and I'm going to go a little off the board here. I'm hoping he's going to be back from injury or has been back from injury. I'm going with Mason Bordieri out of Mansfield. I think just a really favorable matchup for them going up against Oliver Ames this week. Mason's been dynamite for them this season. We didn't get to see him when Mansfield came down to play Marshfield just because he was on the shelf. He was dressed for that game, so I imagine it was nothing too serious. And a couple weeks ago now, so I'm hoping and thinking he's back, and I like him to go on and just kind of have a field day against OA. I really don't think that defense is going to put up too much of a resistance. All right, that takes us into round three, Johnny.
I'm gonna go running back. I'm gonna go to our game of the week. I'm gonna Hanover Plymouth South. Tommy Regan from Hanover, a guy that we've seen in person. He's tremendously talented coming out of that backfield. That's a huge matchup on Friday night. I'm really intrigued to see how that one goes, and I think all their skill position guys on both sides will need to play a big factor. So that's why I'm going with Tommy.
And you're in an interesting spot here as Hanover, where I really do feel like you have to get that ground game going. Like you're fighting a battle on two fronts in my mind, if you're the Hawks, in that this game, I mean, first and foremost, you need to go out and win this game. If they win this game, it almost sets them up to where you know you're playing for a share of the league title against Situate in the final week of the season. Not quite. Things could, I think, really kind of spaz out from there, but I think even if you then follow up with a loss to Quincy, who they'll have in week 8, you would still only be one loss. And Quincy's got North Quincy on Thanksgiving, so like you would at least guarantee that you are in a position to take a share of that Patriot League title through the final week of the regular season. So that's your first priority. But this is a team with playoff aspirations too. And I just think it's going to be very tough for them to advance through the D5 tournament if they don't get the ground game going in some form or fashion. They're starting to get a little bit healthier on the offensive line. I think we saw an offensive line that was banged up, so we didn't see a team that was rushing the ball very well. And just the type of game they got into with Pembroke, they were forced to go to the air a lot more in this kind of shootout type game. So I think especially just as far as trying to control the clock against a big physical Plymouth South team, Tommy Regan could be a kind of key piece for Hanover this week. All right, that wheels it to you, Brennan.
I'm going to go running back here. I'm going to look at the East Bridgewater Middleborough matchup. I'm going to take Silas Hickey this week. I feel like they're going to run the ball against this Middleborough team that has struggled to put up points in the last couple of weeks, and they might jump out to a lead. They might get more than one running back involved in this one. We've seen Doris kind of take over for the most part, but then the other two backs get involved as well when they take a lead. So I think this is a chance for Silas.
Coming off of maybe the craziest game of the season, with a quadruple overtime game against Rockland, a 58-56 final, just unbelievable. I was getting into the box score of it, looking over what Mike Doyle sent over from Rockland. I mean, EB, you talk about an emotional win. They blocked an extra point with triple zeros on the clock at the end of regulation. Rockland scored at the end of regulation. EB blocks an extra point to extend that game and then is able to win it, 4 overtimes later. I think that kind of has the effect of, in two ways. Your big workhorse guys, they're going to be feeling the effects from that game, right? Like that's a lot of extra football. So I imagine they're going to work in some extra weapons here against Middleborough. And Silas Hickey, I feel like has been around forever for EB and kind of, always just a role player for them. Why not go out and have a big game against Middleborough? All right, that brings it to me, and I'm going to close out my wide receiver room here. And I'm going to go to a guy. Listen, it's a very tough matchup, no doubt about it. Going up against who is now number 2 in Division 7 in Cohasset, but he was a beast for Carver last week against Mashpee. I'm going with Colin Eakins, coming off of a 150-yard performance. They've got the passing game going now that they've really leaned into the quarterback change down there for the Crusaders, and Colin was just sensational in that game. I think in general, the passing game looks really good. They're going to throw the ball a ton. They struggle to move the ball on the ground. Cohasset has a very, very good defensive front. So I think that the only way Carver's really going to be able to hang in this game is to just be trying to throw the ball over the yard. So I think that bodes well for Colin Eakins and really the entire Carver wide receiver unit. So, all right, Johnny, kick off round 4.
Yeah, I'll go another wide receiver off the board. I know you've gone to this game already, but I'm going to go with his counterpart. I'm going to go BR again, but this time James Dorica. I just think that's a fun matchup with New Bedford. I think they're going to be throwing the ball. Obviously, Black is very good too, so we'll see kind of who they go to. I think they're both going to get some touches, so I think it ultimately becomes a numbers game at that point.
Yeah, I think it's pick a guy this week. Like they have 3 very, very. I mean, you throw in Dylan Reed in the mix, who's come off the board before. Like, they've got three very, very capable targets, but Jack Lambert does such a good job of spreading it around. It feels like every week you see somebody new in the box score for the Trojans, and these two guys are constantly there as well. So, and that's a good pick, Johnny. All right, Brendan.
I think I'm going to close out my running back room, and I'm going to go to a matchup between two teams that have really struggled all season long, but somebody's going to win this time around. And I think Cardinal Spellman has a chance to pick up a W this week, and I'm going to go with Daniel Walks. I feel like he's going to have a chance to put up some numbers.
What are you smiling, Johnny?
No, I'm remembering that Nantucket game. That's why I'm smiling.
Oh,
I think they listen, to your point, Brendan, when you look at, you know, just like what's left on the schedule here for Spellman, you know, this is like you got to go out and get this win, right? Like you're going to be motivated knowing you've got the bye week next week. You've taken your lumps this season. It has been a grind, no doubt about it. But you go into a matchup where it's not unrealistic you could get a win in the win column this week. So it just feels like I just throw everything you can at the table, and go out there, play your heart out, and try to just get one in the W column. So yeah, I think there's a good chance that Daniel Walks finds himself in the end zone this week. All right, I will close out round four here, and I'm gonna close out my running back room in the process. And I am gonna go, let me see. I'm gonna go to the number two guy out of the back. He's a bit of a factor in the passing game as well. I'm gonna go Timmy Toland from North Quincy. I think he kind of can do it all within that offense. I think again, you saw, Pembroke has some athletes on defense. Mikey Gesey's fantastic on both sides of the ball. They can play really solidly on defense. So I think that this is maybe a game where you see some of those kind of secondary options um, for Ryan Sampson shine within the offense. And so I like it to be Timmy Tolan this week. All right, Johnny, round five.
Well, I've already gone to this matchup, but I think I like it enough where I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go Peter Skutnik, the running back from Milton. Again, I just think that's a pretty intriguing matchup for me. Obviously, they're on the road at Walpole, so I mean, but I like it enough where I'm going to go their quarterback and the running back. So let's hope they deliver for me.
Yeah, and I mean, why not? I think that I like Milton in this matchup a lot. I gotta say, I think they have the upper hand on Walpole, and I think I was just really impressed with what they were able to do against Wachusett last week. And frankly, the offense was not really the issue against Weymouth the prior week either. So, I think Skutnik's certainly a worthy pick coming off the board. I like their chances to go up and put some points up on Walpole, and they were able to run the ball exceptionally. Again, very different teams, but 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, it was really about their ability to run the ball. Even as good as they were in the passing offense, it was their ability to run the ball that really kind of put that game away. Brendan.
I think I still need one more wide receiver. I'm going to
Yeah.
go to a Hockomock League matchup that you already picked a running back from, Quinn. I'm going to go with Mansfield against, I believe they're playing Oliver Ames this week,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to go with Brandon DiGirolamo.
He is a beast. He is a physical, big-bodied receiving target. I think he's a monster. And I don't really think that OA has anybody athletically that's going to be able to kind of hang with him. So I think it's a great pick, Brennan. He's really impressive for a Mansfield team that I would be really surprised if they found their way back to the D3 Super Bowl, which is not. I mean, I was shocked they found their way to it last year, but I'd be really surprised if they found their way back this year. That said, he is that guy for them. I think he's a really impressive specimen, and I think he's going to have a big game for them. And I think that like, picking on the kind of heavy favorite side of these lopsided matchups late in the season behooves you just because you're getting to that point in the year where coaches are thinking, I need to get us rolling so that when we're rolling into tournament time. So this doesn't strike me as a game where if Mansfield gets up, the dogs are getting called off anytime soon. All right, I will close out round five here with my quarterback pick. I'm going with a guy who has quietly been having a record-setting season. Um, he's been fantastic all year long. I think he set the record for program passing yards in a game. Ryan Nunes from West Bridgewater. I think what makes them so dangerous this year, why they're sitting at number three in D7, is the addition of this aerial attack for them. Um, it it just hasn't been in there in the same way. They went from, having James Harris, who was a phenomenal quarterback, but was a true rushing quarterback first early in Ty Holmes' career. They were very dangerous when he was there. I think Ryan Nunes being able to pass the ball to and complement that rushing attack is huge for them. And boy, I think this is a favorable matchup against Seekonk. I think, I mean, West Bridgewater is coming off a couple of weeks ago now, right? No, last week, right? They beat Fairhaven to end that winning streak for Fairhaven. Seaconk's last game, they lost 49-6 to that same Fairhaven team. So I think that this is, record aside for Seaconk, I think this is a matchup that West Bridgewater can take care of business in. Like Ryan Nunes to have a big game for them. All right, final round. Everybody needs a defense. Johnny, lead it off.
I'm going to have a statement pick here. It's not a matchup that we've gone to today. I'm going to go Severian's defense against Catholic Memorial. This is the year that they
Whoa.
right the ship. And
Okay.
yeah, I think 31-10 Hawks. So I'm going with Severian.
I love it. I love it. Throw it up. I mean, let's hope. I hope. I love that. I know. I think Fox 25 is
Now,
coming
with the
down
way
there.
that matchup's been going, it's probably going to be 51-50 with a missed 2-point conversion at the end. But
Yeah, probably.
remember,
Probably.
people forget that I picked Marshfield's defense when they beat CM that one year. So
You
now,
did.
granted, gave up 40,
I was
but
gonna say they did give up 40 points, but you were on the right side. If the wins were the key determinant, that was a great pick. All right, Brendan, your defense.
Well, Johnny just mentioned them briefly in his last statement. I'm going to go with the Marshfield defense going up against Whitman Hanson this week. This is a time for Marshfield to really, as you mentioned it, get rolling into tournament time, and I think this is a good opponent to do it against.
Yeah, I think that's a wise pick. Yeah, Marshfield, I think is absolutely one of those teams that also needs to get themselves going here, coming down the stretch. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, I think I think you're right on with that, Brendan. All right, that brings it to me. I close out my board with my defense as well, and just give me one more quick scan, making sure we'll want to go to. I am going to go with. All right, I'm gonna go with Duxbury. Go with the Duxbury defense. Going up against Silver Lake this week. I even in their losses, right? They're not giving up a ton of points. But this is now a must-win game. I mean, if you're a Duxbury, you got to be looking like what is happening right now? Frustrating loss to Londonderry. Um, really tough loss to Situate, and now you lose to Hingham, and you're fighting an uphill battle in league play as it is. You have to go out and perform well defensively against Silver Lake because that's been their hallmark. We've talked about it so many times. Like even when the offense isn't clicking for them, they're still a, an elite defensive team, and it doesn't feel like that this year. So I think Matt Landolfi is going to be drilling it into them this week. We are not letting a point get up on that board. So we'll take Duxbury. All right, that'll do it. Let me run through the picks. Johnny, Patrick Collins, quarterback out of Milton. Your running backs, Tommy Regan out of Hanover and Peter Skutnik out of Milton. Your wide receivers, Ronan Brown out of North Quincy and James DeRica out of Bridgewater Raynham with the Severian defense. Brendan, your quarterback, Jake Turchinets out of Plymouth North. Your running back, Silas Hickey out of East Bridgewater and Daniel Walks out of Cardinal Spellman. Your wide receivers, John Naku out of North Quincy. and Brendan DiGirolamo out of Mansfield with the Marshfield defense. I had Ryan Nunes, the quarterback out of West Bridgewater, my running backs. Mason Bordieri out of Mansfield, and Tim Toland out of North Quincy. My wide receivers, Caden Black out of Bridgewater, Raynham, and Colin Eakins out of Carver with the Duxbury defense. All right, that wraps it up here. That is the Week 7 WATD Fantasy Draft in the books. Kind of a light week for us, man. One game, but we have our South Shore game of the weekend. It is a big one. Plymouth South hosting Hanover. That'll be at 7 o'clock on 95.9 WATD Friday night. Be sure to tune in. Pre-game show kicking off about 6:45. While you're here on the channel, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time with the WATD Fantasy Draft. For Brendan and Johnny, I'm Quinn. Have a wonderful week.